Cheat number 1, God-tier geography. Imagine civilizations as a strategy game. Some start in deserts, some start in jungles teeming with disease. Others have flat lands, perfect for invasion, but difficult to defend. The United States? It rolled the best possible starting stats in human history. Early settlers arrived on the East Coast to find millions of acres of fertile, arable farmland stretching as far as the eye could see. Crops thrived. Wealth was possible from day one. But fertility alone isn't the cheat code. The real advantage is transportation. Heavy goods are expensive to move over land. Friction, roads, and infrastructure all add cost. Water transport? Orders of magnitude cheaper. Enter the Mississippi River system, a natural circulatory network for an entire economy. The U.S. has more miles of navigable inland waterways than the rest of the world combined. A farmer in Brazil must truck soybeans across jungles and pothole-riddled roads to reach a port. In Iowa, corn rides a barge a few miles downriver and emerges on the global market virtually free of cost. Every exported American product carries a built-in geographic subsidy courtesy of Mother Nature. Defense is baked in too. Two oceans, the Atlantic and the Pacific, act as natural moats. While Europe spent centuries warring and rebuilding cities flattened by artillery, American factories hummed uninterrupted, producing for both domestic and global demand. London, Berlin, Tokyo, they were all battle-scarred. The U.S. coastlines remained untouched. Invading America? Logistically prohibitive, practically impossible. And then there's energy. For decades, narratives framed the U.S. as dependent on foreign oil, fighting wars to secure it. But around 2010, a tech upgrade changed everything. Fracking unlocked vast shale reserves, turning America from the world's largest energy importer into its largest producer of oil and natural gas. Overnight, an energy beggar became an energy dealer, exporting influence along with barrels. To recap, infinite food glitch, Midwest farmland. Free transportation glitch, the Mississippi River. Invincibility cheat, two oceans protecting the nation. Infinite fuel cheat, the shale revolution. While most nations play survival mode, worried about famine, invasion, or fuel scarcity, America operates on creative mode. The land itself generates wealth, resilience, and freedom from mistakes that would cripple others. Geography isn't just luck. It's a perpetual, invisible subsidy that shapes every economic outcome. This isn't a theory. It's the foundation of centuries of dominance. Geography allowed America to weather wars, depressions, and leadership blunders while continuing to export power. Farms, rivers, oceans, and shale, together, they're the first layer of the economic cheat code, silently ensuring that even when the U.S. stumbles, it rarely falls. Cheat number 2. The ultimate money hack. Geography gave America a strong foundation, but money built the tower. To understand the single greatest economic advantage the U.S. ever secured, we travel to July 1944. The scene, a luxury hotel in Bretton Woods, New Hampshire. The world is still bleeding from World War II. Factories lie in rubble across Europe and Asia. Gold reserves are nearly depleted. Nations face bankruptcy. Meanwhile, the U.S. holds 2/3 of the world's gold, and its industries are booming. The Americans offer a deal the world can't refuse. Instead of shipping gold across dangerous oceans to settle debts, nations can use the U.S. dollar as the global reserve currency. The promise? Every dollar is backed by gold. The world agrees. Suddenly, the dollar isn't just paper, it's the linchpin of global trade. The cheat code is activated. For decades, this system worked smoothly. But by the late 1960s, America began spending like a gambler at the high-stakes table. Vietnam War costs, social programs, and a ballooning domestic deficit. By 1971, France demanded its gold in exchange for dollars, exposing the system's cracks. President Nixon responded with what would later be called the Nixon shock, suspending dollar-to-gold convertibility permanently. The rug was pulled. In a normal world, the dollar should have collapsed. A paper currency backed by broken promises is worthless. But here's the genius of the cheat code. The dollar was already embedded in global trade. Oil was priced in dollars. All major transactions flowed through U.S. banks. If the dollar collapsed, the entire system would collapse. The U.S. effectively held the global economy hostage. This is what former French finance minister Valéry Giscard d'Estaing famously called the exorbitant privilege. The U.S. could print money freely, borrow at near-zero interest, and export inflation without consequence. Need oil? Dollars. Want to buy goods from America? Dollars. Nations had no choice but to keep buying U.S. debt, funding America's deficits with real goods and services, while the U.S. printed digital IOUs. The system also created a subtle power dynamic. Countries reliant on dollars to trade were in effect playing by American rules. Brazil or India could only access oil if they earned dollars by exporting commodities or manufactured goods. U.S. deficits became a feature, not a bug. Inflation that might cripple other economies was simply outsourced. The global marketplace absorbed America's financial risk, while the U.S. maintained its liquidity and purchasing power. Even today, this cheat code underpins U.S. economic dominance. The $34 trillion national debt is less a liability than a mechanism for global leverage. Nations require dollars. They buy U.S. treasuries. They fund America's operations, wars, and innovations, all while depending on a currency whose supply the U.S. controls. Geography built the foundation, but dollar privilege built the skyscraper.
The lesson: money is power, and the U.S. mastered the system when the world was vulnerable. No empire in history has printed its way to global dominance with so little consequence. The Bretton Woods Agreement didn't just establish a currency. It coded a financial cheat into the DNA of the modern economy, one that continues to grant America freedom and leverage unmatched by any other nation. Cheat number 3, the forced subscription. The Bretton Woods dollar privilege was powerful, but it had one weakness: gold wasn't infinite. By 1971, the U.S. had effectively broken the dollar's gold backing. The dollar could have collapsed. That's when the U.S. pulled off the greatest pivot in financial history, linking the dollar to oil instead of gold. The stage? 1974. The U.S. economy is being squeezed by inflation. Enter Henry Kissinger, Secretary of State, flying to Saudi Arabia for a secret meeting with the House of Saud. The offer on the table was essentially a financial protection racket. The U.S. said, "We will provide military protection. Fighter jets, missiles, naval presence, you're safe from any threats. In exchange, price all your oil exclusively in U.S. dollars and reinvest those dollars in U.S. Treasury bonds." The Saudis agreed. The petrodollar was born. Why is this a cheat code? Because every country on Earth needs oil. Japan, Germany, Kenya, none of them can run their economies without it. And since oil is sold only in dollars, every nation must acquire dollars to survive. This created a permanent, artificial demand for the U.S. currency. Imagine a world where Amazon gift cards are the only legal currency. Everyone needs them, even if Amazon mismanages internally. That's exactly how the dollar became indispensable. The U.S. didn't stop there. History shows what happens when nations try to bypass the system. Saddam Hussein announced Iraq would sell oil in euros in 2000. Shortly after, the U.S. invaded and forced a return to dollars. Muammar Gaddafi proposed a gold-backed African oil currency in 2011. NATO intervened, the regime was toppled, and Libya's oil reverted to dollars. Coincidence? Possibly, but in geopolitics, messing with the dollar is dangerous. The system allowed the U.S. to run massive deficits without consequence. Inflation? Exported to the world. Military spending? Funded by other nations indirectly. Every barrel of oil sold reinforced the U.S.'s ability to borrow, print, and spend freely. The world's dependence on oil priced in dollars created a self-feeding loop. The U.S. controls the money supply and energy simultaneously, a combination that no other nation can replicate. Yet even this cheat code faces pressure today. BRICS nations, led by China and Russia, are developing alternative payment systems and energy contracts outside the dollar. A shift here could undermine the artificial demand that propels the U.S. economy. But for decades, this system allowed America to maintain dominance despite mismanagement, political dysfunction, and repeated financial crises. In essence, the Petrodollar Pact is a clever workaround for a broken gold standard. It turns the world's need for energy into perpetual dollar demand. Nations must earn dollars to buy oil, then recycle those dollars into U.S. assets, funding the U.S. government spending while remaining dependent on the system. Geography gave America a strong start. Bretton Woods gave it money power, and the petrodollar ensured that every country remained financially tethered to Washington. It's a masterstroke of economic engineering. The U.S. isn't just trading or exporting, it's enforcing a global currency subscription. Nations cannot simply walk away. As long as the dollar rules oil markets, America maintains leverage over the global economy without firing a shot. That's the beauty of the third cheat code: economic domination disguised as routine international commerce. Cheat number 4 is the military subsidy, or as I like to call it, the invisible security guard. Most people look at the U.S. military budget, roughly $800 to $900 billion annually, and think, that's outrageous. Why don't we fund healthcare instead? From a social perspective, fair point. But from a pure economic standpoint, it's the most successful loss leader product in history. Imagine you are a global CEO shipping thousands of containers from Shenzhen to Los Angeles. You pass through the South China Sea, the Strait of Malacca, across the Pacific. Without protection, piracy, regional conflicts, and hostile states would make shipping risky and expensive. But here's the cheat. The U.S. Navy guarantees the safety of global trade lanes. The U.S. effectively subsidizes security for every container on every ocean route. Narrow choke points like the Strait of Hormuz for oil, the Strait of Malacca for goods, and the Suez Canal are all monitored and protected by the U.S. Navy. This protection isn't charity. It ensures trade flows according to U.S. rules. Countries that step out of line, think Russia or Iran, face economic consequences. The U.S. can freeze them out of the global banking system, intercept ships, or enforce sanctions. The stick and the carrot are in constant play. Comply and you enjoy open markets, safe shipping, and access to the largest consumer economy in history. Defy, and trade grinds to a halt. Aircraft carriers act as the silent enforcers at the negotiating table. The U.S. has 11 carrier strike groups. China has 2, Russia 1. These aren't just military assets. They're instruments of economic leverage. When America negotiates a trade deal, those carriers implicitly back the deal. The military cheat code also funds innovation. Billions in defense R&D, from ARPANET to GPS to jet engines, were initially government projects. Once matured, private companies commercialize the technology. Apple, Google, Boeing, they profit massively, while taxpayers effectively subsidize global technological infrastructure. In essence, the military budget is a subscription fee other countries pay indirectly. It maintains free shipping lanes, guarantees energy flow, and enforces global economic stability in favor of U.S. interests. America doesn't just fight wars, it safeguards the global marketplace. The U.S. Navy, Air Force, and Army act as a protective firewall that no other nation can replicate economically.
This cheat code amplifies the first 3. Geography keeps America safe at home. The dollar and petrodollar guarantee global leverage. And the military ensures no one can challenge the system directly. Countries may grumble, protest, or attempt alternatives, but the cost of bypassing U.S. military protection is astronomical. It's a silent, yet undeniable global power multiplier. Without this invisible security guard, shipping, trade, and oil flow would be far riskier and more expensive. America's economic dominance isn't just about dollars. It's about the force that guarantees those dollars maintain value and reach every corner of the globe. The final cheat code is arguably the most insidious, the global brain vacuum, or human capital heist. Land, money, oil, and guns can all be powerful, but intelligence, the ability to innovate, invent, and drive growth, is the most valuable resource on the planet. Geniuses are rare, randomly distributed, and globally dispersed. A prodigy born in Mumbai has the same potential as one born in Ohio. But the operating system of their environment drastically affects outcomes. America has perfected a system to identify, attract, and monetize global talent. Picture a brilliant student in a developing nation. They ace exams, graduate at the top of their class, and face limited funding, outdated labs, and insufficient equipment. They could contribute locally, but their potential is capped. Enter the U.S. Universities like MIT, Stanford, and Caltech offer state-of-the-art labs, unlimited funding, and access to cutting-edge research. The brightest students flock to these institutions, taking their talent and economic value with them. Here's the stat that underscores the magnitude. In critical fields like electrical engineering and computer science, over 70% of graduate students in U.S. programs are foreign-born. The heist is clear. The U.S. gets fully educated, highly productive individuals without paying the initial developmental cost. Other nations fund K-12 and even undergraduate education, but once these prodigies reach the cusp of their productivity, the U.S. offers them visas, advanced labs, and lucrative salaries. Silicon Valley, Tesla, SpaceX, Google, Microsoft, these are all powered by brains imported from abroad. Elon Musk came from South Africa, Sergey Brin from Russia, Satya Nadella from India, Jensen Huang from Taiwan. The U.S. doesn't just attract talent, it monetizes it in ways that accelerate economic growth far beyond what the home countries could achieve. The rest of the world suffers a dual loss. Financial capital may remain, but human capital, the engine of innovation, leaves permanently. This cheat code interacts with the others. Geography ensures the U.S. is safe and resource-rich. The dollar privilege gives it global financial leverage. Petrodollars create sustained demand, and the military secures trade routes. But human capital is the multiplier. The smartest people are operating within a system designed to maximize output. Their inventions, startups, and discoveries generate massive profits that flow primarily to the U.S. economy. Other nations essentially outsource the risk and expense of raising talent, while America reaps the reward. The global brain vacuum also ensures long-term dominance. Even as other nations catch up technologically, they struggle to retain their best minds. Policies, economic incentives, and university systems funnel top-tier talent into the U.S. ecosystem, creating a self-reinforcing cycle of innovation, entrepreneurship, and global economic control. In essence, the human capital heist is the capstone of the American economic cheat code. Land, money, energy, and military might establish the system, but intelligence ensures it evolves, grows, and adapts faster than anyone else. Without this last layer, the other cheat codes would provide temporary advantage. With it, the U.S. locks in generational dominance.